morning, dears. Welcome back to our English online class. I think all of you got second volume textbook, isn't it? Also, all of you are in the thrill of reopening of our schools. Our schools will reopen on November 1st week. So, all of you are happy or not? Yes, happy. All of you are very happy to hear this news. Okay. In the last class, we studied about a poor farmer whose name was Lenjo. Lenjo has unfailing faith in God. Also, he was an innocent farmer and he expected a good growth in his cornfield. For that, he was waiting for rain. God heard his prayers and started raining. He became very happy. He was thrilled and he compared each raindrops to new coins of tens and 5. That's all in the last class. Today, we are going to study the remaining portion. Now, we can study what happened after the rain, or what about the cornfield after the rain. Teacher will read the next story, A Night of Sorrow. And you must listen each and every line of the story. Okay. Take your English textbook and turn page number 39. A Night of Sorrow. He looked at the field of ripe corn with its flowers draped in a curtain of rain. But suddenly a strong wind began to blow. Very large hailstones began to fall. During the rain, he looked at the field of ripe corn. His mind was very happy. He was very thrilled. All the flowers are draped in a curtain of rain. All the flowers in the cornfield draped in a curtain of rain. Draped means to hang clothes, materials, etc. loosely on something. But what happened? Suddenly, a strong wind began to blow. A strong wind began to blow. Very large hailstones began to fall. At the time of wind, very large hailstones began to fall. Hailstones means small balls of ice that fall like rain. It's really getting bad now. He became afraid. It's really getting bad now. Something bad happened. Exclaimed Lenzo. I hope it passes quickly. But even if he afraid, he hoped it passes quickly. It did not pass quickly. It hailed for an hour on the house, the garden, the hillside, the cornfield, and the whole valley. The field was white, as if covered with air, as if covered with salt. Not a leaf remained on the trees. It did not pass quickly, but that wind did not pass quickly. It hailed for an hour. It continued for an hour. On the house, in the garden, and in the hillside, the cornfield, and the whole valley. The storm did not pass quickly. It hailed, or it continued to blow for an hour on the whole valley. The field was white when it covered with salt. Salt is in white color. So when something is covered with salt like that, the field became white. Not a leaf remained on the trees. The trees, there are no leaves. All of them disappeared, or all of them fell down. The corn was totally destroyed. The flowers had disappeared from the plants. Lenjo's soul was filled with sadness. That night was a sorrowful one. The corn was totally destroyed. The cornfield became destroyed during the wind. The flowers had disappeared from the plants. The plants, there are no flowers, no leaves, etc. Lenjo's soul was filled with sadness. During the rain, his mind was filled with happiness. But everything lost. At that time, Lenjo's mind filled with sadness instead of happiness. That night was a sorrowful one. That night was very sorrowful to whom? To Lenjo. But he says to himself, this year we will have no corn. There is no one to help us. We will all go hungry this year because of everything lost, or the cornfield, after the destruction of cornfield, Lenjo's mind filled with sadness, and he says to himself, or he whispered, this year we will have no corn, all the cornfield destroyed. Therefore, this year we will have no corn. There is no one to help us. No, because of that, there was no one to help them. We will all go hungry this year. But in the hearts of all who lived in that solitary house, there was a single hope, help from God. But at a time of sadness also, in the hearts of all who lived in that solitary house, solitary means alone with no other people around. In the solitary house, there was a single hope. But at the time also, there was a single hope. There was a little bit of hope. What's that? That's a help from God. Because Lenjo has unfailing faith in God. All through the night, Lenjo thought only of his one hope, God. At that night, he thought about the hope that is the God. God will help him. God will give him food. So, he unfailingly believed in God. He expect something, or he expect a good support from God. That is all about the story. Now, here also 3 more questions on the side of the story. The first one is, Lenjo was happy when it started raining, but the happiness didn't last long. What was the reason? What was the reason? He looked at the field of ripe corn with its flowers wrapped in a curtain of rain, but suddenly a strong wind began to blow. Very large hailstones began to fall. That was the reason. Then, the second question. Pick out the expressions which tell you that Lencho was sad. Lencho's soul was filled with sadness. That night was a sorrowful one, and he says to himself as this year we will have no corn. There's no one to help us. We will all go hungry this year. Then the last question. What changes did the hailstorm bring to the valley? The field became white as if covered with salt. Not a leaf remained on the trees. The cornfield was totally destroyed. The flowers had disappeared from the plants. That's all the changes that happened during the hailstorm. Okay, so you must write all the 3 questions in your notebook and write their answers. Here we have an activity. There is nothing but a news report. These are some news reports. Did you see reports in our daily newspapers? Can you remember the reports on the time of floods in our newspaper? I think some of you read the reports on that time. Okay, anyway, here Lencho's cornfield destroyed after the heavy rain and due to strong wind. He was in the stage of disappointment. He cried. His mind was full of sadness. He has lost everything. At last, his only hope was the God. But the news that happened in Lencho's cornfield, down in the nearby villages, in the next day's newspaper, in the main column, there is a news report about Lencho's cornfield. Now, you have to write a news report about Lencho's cornfield. How will you write a news report? Did you write report earlier? No, this is the first time you are going to start a report. What are the things or what are the matters that a news report contains? A news report contains the 5 W's and 1 X. What are the 5 W's? That means, first one, what was the event? Then, second one, where did it happen? Where did the incident happen? Then the third one, when did it happen? That's a time. Then fourth one, who were involved? Who were involved in that event or in that incident? And fifth one, which was the most important event? Or we should make news if there are more than one event. If there are more than one event, which is the important news, that is the fifth point. And 1H, that is, how did it happen? How did that incident happen? These are the things or the matters that a news report will contain. Then, what are the important points to remember while writing a report? When you write a report that should have first one. A news report has a heading. A news report has a heading. Then, second one, the place of occurrence is given in the beginning. Where is the incident happened? That place of occurrence is given in the beginning. And third one, the event should be clear from the first 2 or 3 sentences itself. In the first 3 sentences, that event should be clearly explained. Then, fourth one, comparatively less important details are given towards the end. First, give the important incidents in 2 or 3 lines. Then give the least important incidents. Then, next, style of reporting varies from newspaper to newspaper. Then, last one, every newspaper has its own version of the event. Okay. Before starting to write a news report, then you should clarify some points. They are: first, name where did the event takes place. That means the name of the place there should be noted. Then, where did it take place? When did it take place? That is the time. What is the main event and how did it happen? What are the details of the event? Then, who are the persons involved in the event? These are the important things before starting to write a news report. All these items are included in the news report. Here is a model of or sample news report about Lenjo's cornfield. Then, sample news report is here. Read and listen the points and way of writing. Check whether the points which earlier says that should include or not. So, carefully listen each line and the report very carefully. Then, you can write a news report differently. Then, there is a homework for you. Write a news report about the flood happened in your village area. First, remember the steps and procedures of writing a report and then try to write a news report. If you have any doubt, then ask me personally. Otherwise, if some errors have happened, then nothing to worry. We can rectify the errors. Okay, try to write the news report as yourself. Okay.